We are live.
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Ricky Shabazz. I have the honor and privilege of being the president of San Diego City College. Welcome to our bi-weekly College Council meeting. We did take a week off, kind of mess with the rotation because everyone was on the holiday break. Hopefully, folks got to eat a little turkey and spend some time with their loved ones. Certainly, we also acknowledge and celebrate Indigenous People's Day as well. And I wanted to start the meeting by saying that San Diego City College sits on the land of the Kumeyaay, and we honor the members of the Kumeyaay for their sacrifices. And for anyone who's not aware of the Panama Convention and the things that transpired that ultimately allowed Balboa Park and San Diego City College to exist, we are working to ensure that that history is known and told as a part of the history of our college. And I want to thank Robbie and the team of folks who are working on that. I saw a draft of a land acknowledgement, and I believe it is headed in the right direction. Provided some feedback moments ago, Robbie. So look forward to you taking that to the academic senate and the other senates, so that as a college, we can acknowledge that there were and are people who thrived on this land before our college existed here. But with that said, hopefully everyone has some time to spend with their loved ones last week and get some much needed rest, much deserved rest. And I want to just acknowledge the college and all of our constituency groups for their continued efforts of ensuring that our students thrive and have a college and have a world-class education during a pandemic. We are still in a pandemic, y'all. We should know that there is an additional variant that we're learning about coming out of South Africa that is likely to impact us in some way, depending on what news station you all are receiving your news on. But we are actively monitoring that as we have throughout the pandemic. But it's because of you and the wonderful professionals that we work with every day that our college has actually gone through this pandemic. If you could do such a thing in a very positive way in terms of innovation and supporting students who are in fact impacted by the pandemic. College Council is the highest level of governance at our college. We have representatives from a number of constituency groups. I will introduce them. If you would like to bring an item to College Council, you can do so one of two ways: by contacting Janelli in my office, and soon to be joining us, and I'll introduce her momentarily. We're glad to welcome also Ira into the president's office. You can email either of them, or you can reach out to one of the representatives from the constituency groups that I'm going to introduce momentarily, and they would be glad to place an item on College Council for communication. Later in College Council, you're going to hear from Susan Murray. I've asked Susan Murray to kind of remind us of our college decision process, because there's a lot of information, a lot of things happening very quickly. And we want to make sure that people receive up-to-date information, whether it be from your chairs, whether it be from one of our college's committees, whether it be from this meeting here, as well as the weekly city ready meetings that have, or campus ready meetings that happen. And so there's a number of venues where information is being delivered. And we want to make sure we're all on the same page about how decisions are made and how communication occurs at our college. And so we're going to go over that momentarily, but I would like to start the agenda with doing a roll call. And let me just share, oops. It says that the host has disabled participant screen sharing. We're still Zooming, folks. We're still learning. There we go. And again, these agendas, we strive to send these agendas out ahead of the meeting. Of course, with the holiday, we got the agenda out today, but our goal is always to get the agenda out Friday before the meeting with the attachments, because there are a number of attachments. You'll see on the agenda that there are a number of first reads, and we did that this time because of the holidays. We want to present some information and give folks some time to process it over a 2-week period. But with that said, Paul Alexander, past president, Academic Senate.
Here and present.
Standing in for Tilly, I believe, is Aaron Detty.
Ricky, she sent me since I was going to be here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Masa.
Yes.
Masa is standing in, one of our acting deans. Another one of our deans in the chair of the Institutional Technology Council, Robbie.
Present.
Caesar is our information officer.
Present.
Jocelyn is the supervisory representative. I believe Jocelyn is on vacation this week, well deserved. Standing in for Nadia is Sean.
Present.
Chair of chairs, or the president of the chair's cabinet. Susan is the dean of institutional effectiveness and the chair of improv.
Present.
You already heard from Masa, the administrative representative. He's wearing 2 hats today. Victoria, president of Associated Students. I don't see Victoria. Hopefully she'll be joining us. John is the vice president of administrative services.
Present.
Marciano is the acting vice president of student services.
Present.
Sean is the, we have 2 Seans. Sean Ryan is the president of the classified senate.
Hey, y'all, present.
And Darius is the interim president of the academic senate.
He's joining now. He was having problems finding the login information, but he's joining now.
Great, not a problem. We will welcome Darius when he joins us, or anyone else who joins us. We also have a number of guests with us today that we will introduce momentarily for their respective parts. But again, these are your campus leaders of the various constituency groups. And so should you like to bring an item to College Council, you can work with one of them, or you can work with the president's office. I would like to begin or go to the second item on the agenda, which is the approval of the meeting notes. If someone would like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. This is Sean Ryan.
Sean, we've got a first by Sean. Would someone like to second?
I'll second Ricky. Rob Ewell.
Thank you. Robbie seconds the matter. Any further discussion on the meeting notes? Hearing none, all in favor, if you would use the reaction button and then click green for approval, X for wanting to not approve. If you would like to abstain, you can do so by unmuting yourself and saying so. Looks like the motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Moving along with the agenda. I mentioned that we had some changes. And bear with me, I'm trying to drive and lead the meeting at the same time. It's just not easy to do with Zoom. But I want to formally welcome Ira Garcia. Ira has been with the college for a number of years and have been a true team player. I met Ira in CACT. She graciously agreed to help us with the academic senate, where she's been doing that for about, what, a year and a half, 2 years or so, Ira.
Yep.
And when we, as a college, decided to not fill the dean of student equity position, that left a secretary, frankly, without a dean. And at the time, Genevieve, Ira's reporting halftime to Genevieve and halftime to academic senate. So halftime to outreach and halftime to the academic senate. We had a vacancy during the hiring freeze, which many of us probably remember. And so we transferred the administrative, or the secretary in the president's office, to provide support for student affairs, thereby leaving a vacancy. And I want to just formally thank Aaron Flanagan again for holding down the office, but the volume of work in the president's office, I'm sure Janelle or anyone who works there will tell you, is that you really do need two people. And so we met with the deans and student services, and I met with the vice presidents and met with the academic senate, where I meet with almost every Thursday. And the academic senate was very adamant about keeping Ira, and because of her support for them. And so we thought this was the best solution, given the limited resources and the limited staffing at the college, that Ira has been transferred to the president's office, will continue to have support for the academic senate, and then try to keep me where I'm supposed to go and answer all of the inquiries that come into the president's office. So if you all would just join me in welcoming Ira to the president's office. Thank you, Ira. Anything you want to share, Ira?
Not much, but I'm here. If you guys need anything, if you need help with anything, you can send me an email.
Great, and thanks, Ira. And Ira's been a huge help in training, I believe, Dan, who is taking her place in terms of helping Genevieve. What this allows now is that outreach as part of what you'll hear moments, the reorg in student services, is so that the associate dean, who we're proposing to be a full dean and take on admission records and financial aid, will in fact have a 100% secretary, which I believe Genevieve will attest to is a need in the area, right? So a lot of times we have these moves, frankly, because of limited resources, and we're trying to put Band-Aids on permanent challenges that are before us. But this allows us to do so, being that I meet with the academic senate, Ira works with the academic senate. It actually is a closer relationship than Ira doing have outreach. Well, although Ira was a big part in the processing of all the concurrent enrollment classes or off-site classes. So that certainly is instruction. But with that said, wanted to welcome Ira to the president's office. Thank you, Ira. Appreciate your leadership. Moving on with the agenda, speaking of student services, and thank you, Janelle, that was a perfect segue to turn it over to Marciano Perez, who is the acting vice president of students, to go over the student services reorg. And I want to be clear, this is a first read to introduce it to those folks who may not have heard that this was going on. Certainly, we've been having these discussions for nearly 2 years, and Marciano will go over the timeline. We will bring this back on, I believe, the 14th, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marciano, for a formal vote.
Correct.
So the floor is yours, Marciano.
Well, thank you, President Shabazz, and thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to chat with you a little bit about our proposed student services reorg. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen here for folks that are part of students of the College Council. We've sent you the documents already, so you should have them. And we're happy to share this with anyone that would like to see it. I'm on the agenda for Academic Senate and for Classified Senate, and waiting to get on for SPA. And this has been circulated in Student Services Council as well for folks to be able to see it. But our proposed reorganization, as Ricky mentioned, started almost 2 years ago, about 18 months that we've been really working on a reorg of what this would look like. And one of the things that we did was really focus on students. How student services was organized, how can we improve our service to students, and how we engage with students. And some things made a lot of sense as we started looking at the reorg, and some things just didn't, where they were currently settling, didn't make a lot of sense in terms of where we thought we wanted to go in terms of how students embark on a journey here, their student journey at City College. So with that said, the pandemic really gave us an opportunity to look at it. There was a lot of retirements that happened within the division that gave us an opportunity to really look at positions, not people. And I think that's an important part for us. It's really hard when you're going through a reorg to remove that part of it, the human part of that. People start to feel like this is about people, but we're always looking at this again from the impact that this has on students, and looking at it from the student lens, not from a people lens. So some of the proposed changes, as Ricky mentioned, include the reclassification of the Associate Dean of Outreach and Community Relations to a Dean of Outreach and Enrollment Services. So one of the plans in the reorg, or one of the models, is to move admissions records, financial aid, veterans, outreach all under one dean. So the plan would be to reclass Genevieve's, the associate dean position that she currently holds, into a full dean over those areas. There's also the realignment that all of student services, as we mentioned earlier, there with the removal of the dean of equity, of not replacing that position. And we've had some discussions in other areas, I think even including in College Council, about we know that the equity budget would not allow us to sustain having a dean of equity and having support for all of our equity programs for more than a few years. We'd have to make some tough decisions about whether we wanted to continue having a dean of equity or we wanted to continue to support the programs. And again, looking at it from a student-centered approach, we thought that it was important to keep the money getting really in the hands of the programs and services that were directly impacting students and student equity. And so the decision was made not to hire a dean of equity. So we realigned all of our student services programs under the dean of student development, matriculation, the dean of student affairs, and now the dean of outreach and enrollment services. You'll see in the chart, there's a current structure and then our proposed structure. And so from student services, the structure is that there is, again, student services, the VP of student services with admin assistant, and then there's student development, student affairs, outreach and enrollment services. DSPS, student health and mental health, would continue to report directly to the VPSS. And that was really done because of some of the requirements that really asked that those folks report directly to a VPSS for either HIPAA reasons and or there's some things related to compliance issues around DSPS that require them to really align with the VPSS. But the plan was really to then move into for student development and matriculation to have one dean that would be over all of the areas that have counseling associated with them. So that would mean the Transfer and Career Center, which includes job placement, general counseling, EOPS, CARE, Next Up, and then all of our student success equity programs, Puente Moja, Hubu, City Scholars, personal growth would all be under one dean, so that they support the student's journey through programming and services that help students as they stay on the path through the matriculation process and counseling process. So one of the, I will say that we had a Student Services Council meeting about a week ago, and there's two areas in particular that were still kind of in discussion. They included evaluations and included CalWorks. And so one of the things that came from that discussion is we know that Dr. Hill has expressed the desire to continue to have evaluations, continue to report to her. And so, we wanted to make sure that we allowed that voice to be heard about what her desire was. And then we were able to hear from our coordinator for CalWorks about the needs in CalWorks and the need to report to a manager or a dean. And so that was discussed at the Student Services Council meeting. In terms of there's a current student development structure, which, sometimes I share that, when we're looking at some of these, some of them are related. Some folks look at organizational charts as kind of the people that are in there, and some folks look at it as job functions. And so it just kind of depends on how you look at that. But that's what you'll see in that. As I mentioned, in the two discussed, there was the evaluation and the CalWorks piece that we discussed. And again, we're going to welcome feedback on that from folks. In terms of student affairs, part of the student affairs reorg was that a lot of the things that were under student equity and some of the new initiatives around basic needs were all going to be now realigned under student affairs. So there's the realignment of Fantastique and the food pantry under student affairs, the alignment of student equity efforts, which includes an effort to bring together all of our diversity committees, social justice, the VAMP, World Cultures, and ESSET, the Student Success and Equity Task Force, that all of those committees that typically would meet as part of separate things would come together under one umbrella or group. I don't know if we're calling it a committee yet or what. We haven't landed on a name. But that they would come together and they would be responsible for a lot of the equity and social justice and diversity programs that are happening at the college. And they would be under the purview of the Dean of Student Affairs. The realignment of the Suite Intercultural Centers from Title V, as we all know, that the Title V grant will end in June of this year. And so now that it needs to be institutionalized, those will lie under all those centers will report to the Dean of Student Affairs. There's the realignment of Title V and the Dean of Equity, VPSS part to Student Affairs as well. There's the addition of Title III, as we know that we got a new Title III grant, a STEM grant, a $5 million grant. And so the program activity manager will report to the Dean of Student Affairs. Realignment of scholarships. Scholarships will move from Student Affairs to financial aid, which will now then become part of our outreach and enrollment services area. So that's one of the areas that's going to leave Student Affairs and move to a different one. And again, if you want to look at visually, you'll see the org chart there, which includes the Knights Table, which is our new food pantry that we have, and then our Welcome Home City program that all report under, they have folks that are going to be able to work on those, but they report to the Dean of Student Affairs. And then finally, we have our outreach and enrollment services structure, which again included the reclassification of the associate dean to the Dean of Outreach and Enrollment Services. There's the realignment of all the enrollment services under one division. Financial aid will now move to under outreach and enrollment. Scholarships, which would be a part of financial aid. Upper Bound and all of TRIO program would now run, will report to that dean under enrollment services. And then there's, we're working at the district level to have the reclassification of the student services supervisor 2 position in admissions and records to be a director of enrollment services, and also doing the same thing in financial aid, where we're moving the FAO position, financial aid officer position, to a director of financial aid, and that's being done at the district level, and will have impacts on at all of our campuses, as all of those folks in those positions would be moved into those classifications. And then as Ricky mentioned a minute ago, we moved the dean that was under the Dean of Equity to now report to provide service support for the Dean of Outreach and Enrollment Services, allowing that person to have a 100% full-time administrative assistant for reporting to them. And then again, these are the 2 org charts in terms of what it currently is and what's proposed. So I know that's a lot of information, and we're taking this on the road, so we're going to be sharing it with different constituency groups and getting feedback. But all in all, you know, as one of the things that I mentioned to our Student Services Council last week when we met is, you know, we're looking at this again as at the student journey. When students enroll, when we're recruiting students in the high schools through outreach, and they're doing, you know, they're doing the fantastic work that they can continue to do. What makes sense on that student journey? That all of those students, you know, eventually are going to apply for admissions and records. Through admissions and records, they're going to apply for financial aid. They're going to get involved in things like, you know, the mentor program and things like that. So all of those would be in one area. Again, when students are seeking counseling, whether they're in EOPS or one of our other categorical programs and or general counseling, that they're all going to have one dean that they're reporting to. And then that things like the centers and student life, student activities, student leadership and development are going to be all funneled through student affairs. And so I think this gives us a lot of opportunities for cross collaboration. I think there's a lot of excitement in some areas for the possibilities. Now, again, you know, I'm not going to say that this is perfect. We know that there are folks that don't really always agree with this or don't want to support what's being proposed. And change is hard for when we propose it, because again, sometimes we're thinking about people and not positions. But I do encourage folks to have conversations with folks that are in these areas. We've been talking about this for a while, and now we're at a point where we got to bring some proposal forward that eventually it's going to make its way through our shared governance. It'll come back here to the College Council on the 14th. And our hope is that then after that, it will be able to then run its district process, which will go to District Governance Council and eventually make its way to Cabinet and then taken to the Board of Trustees for a vote. So.
Thank you, Marciano, and for your leadership as well as everyone involved. And I want to clarify a couple additional things and open it up to questions. This is about the people, but it's more about the functions that people do. And when you look at the organization, particularly in student services, and you compare it to models of practice across the state and across the country, you see that this proposal actually brings many of our offices in alignment with the student journey, as Marciano was said so very well. The other thing I want to say is, you know, a lot of times I've been, well, not a lot of times, I've had a lot of great conversations with Doc about this notion of dismantling systems. Particularly systems that negatively impact students. And what we find is, as Marciano said, that change can be very hard, but what's even harder is dismantling systems that impact students. And it's hard because people say that they're committed to dismantling things until those things that we're dismantling brings them discomfort. And what we're finding is that some of these proposals, while there are people who are happy about them, there are others who are either losing things perceived or gaining things perceived. But what we really do have to ask ourselves, if we look at our organization and compare it to other organizations, why was financial aid in student affairs? Why is counseling fragmented between two different deans? And if those of you who have been on this campus long enough and really know the history, you'll be able to attest that many of these decisions were made because of people. This person didn't like that person, this person didn't like, it was frankly, very rarely, if at all, about the student journey or what the students, how the students experienced our college or these offices. And so the other thing that I'll say about the Dean of Student Equity is that position left during a hiring freeze, as did many other. We lost nearly 30 positions. I think it was between 25 and 30 positions we lost during the hiring freeze or due to retirements. We put hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity funds we're proposing and actually, in fact, have allocated hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity funds to our equity programs. And those programs now have the largest budgets that they have ever had in the history of these programs. So anyone who would say otherwise, I would challenge you all to ask them questions and do deeper research and to talk to the coordinators. And speaking of speaking to the coordinators, we've spoke to many people. And there are varying opinions on this, but when you talk to the people on the front lines as to whether or not they agree that this is the right thing to do, many of them are going to say yes. Questions, comments? So Marcel, did I hear you're already on the, can you give some dates just in terms of what we're looking at?
Yes. Pulling it up. Sorry. There we go. All right, so we are on the agenda for, let's see, December 16th is our second read and vote at Student Services Council. December 13th, we're presenting to Academic Senate. December 16th, we're presenting to Classified Senate. And then we'll come back to College Council, I believe, on the 14th for the second vote here. So those are all of the ones on campus, and then eventually it'll work its way to DGC and the Board of Trustees.
Great, and the other thing we've learned from this, because of the pandemic and because different people attend different meetings at different times, I will be bringing to the next College Council a memo system that I'm now asking the vice presidents to use so that we track when this information has been sent to a specific division or different area, because what we're hearing is people say that this is their first time learning about this. And we've discussed it here, we've discussed it in other arenas, but what we're having to do because of the changeover of some of these positions is track down the timelines in which those things were communicated. But moving forward, in the next meeting, I hope to bring to you all, or I plan to bring you all, a memo system that I use in another college. I also want to go on record and say that I've done these reorganizations at other colleges. This is the one that I believe makes the most sense, having conversations with those folks who are on the front lines of these offices. When I arrived, the counselors were very adamant that folks were being hired in counseling positions across the campus and had very little, if any, interactions with general counseling. And so even the counseling piece is meant to address a longstanding challenge that has existed at the college for many years, as well as just asking a general question, like, why is financial aid in student affairs? And most of the answer, Marciano, was?
Because of the people.
Or in this case, we don't know. It was there when we got here. And it did take nearly 2 years to work with the district and the other colleges to upgrade, because our folks in financial aid and admission and records, the leaders in those two areas, were doing manager work, but they were not being compensated accordingly. And so now those folks are going to be upgraded to a similar wage and salary of their peers across the state. So there are a number of things at play that took a number of years to unravel the onion, so to speak, to get to the point that you all see. And I want to thank Marciano and all the deans and student services, those who agree with it, as well as those who don't agree with it. This is the right thing to do, folks. And so we look forward to a lively discussion. I wouldn't think that it would occur any other way. That is the city college way. Any questions or further comments about this matter? It's a first read, if you will. Hearing none, again, Marciano, I trust you will take this to the areas that you outlined, and we look forward to bringing this back in 2 weeks. Thank you. Next on the agenda, I'm going to skip, if I could, I'm going to skip number 5 and go to number 8, just in the interest of time. What we have, we invited Yin, who is functioning as our consultant in the foundation, doing a wonderful job. And I thought we had Maury. Maury's on a time sensitive. So Maury is one of our coordinators working in the foundation that we are using her funds to build out our foundation. And we've got an IEPI grant that is likely to bring in upwards of $250,000. And one of the projects that they are working on is a summer program. And so I will turn it over to Yin and Maury.
Thank you, Ricky. Maury is on the meeting, so and she had prepared a PowerPoint presentation, and I will hand it over. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see everybody again, by the way. Maury, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I am so sorry about this technical difficulties right now. My PowerPoint I'm having trouble uploading it. I can definitely share it to everyone after the meeting.
Maury, I have it. I can share it with people, and I can drive it for you.
Okay, yeah, if you can.
Sure.
And Maury, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to College Council while Yin is bringing up the PowerPoint.
Yes, definitely. So again, my name is Maury Hamilton. I will be coordinating the summer camp program at San Diego City College. As we go through the PowerPoint, I can definitely give you more information about said summer camp program.
Can
But
everybody see it?
It says it's loading in.
Okay.
So the summer camp program is going to be focusing, oh, and here we are. So it is going to be an 8-week program broken into 2 4-week sessions. And so what we are thinking for the max enrollment to be 20 students per session, and the target population is middle school students. So I know you may be wondering why 20. The number 20 came about because with the spacing and slopes at the urban farm site, it would just be difficult to ensure safety of a larger group. Another thing is that in the planetarium lab, the spacing, again, safety wise, is about 24. So 20 would be a good solid number per session to have to ensure that the students, one, get the attention they need during the curriculum, but then 2, also to make sure that no one is hurt while they're participating in activities on the college campus. Not only will they be engaging in STEAM activities, different science, technology, math, coding, different things like that, but we're also going to be incorporating dance as well. So the students will also have that physical activity element as well. So some people may be thinking, okay, so who's involved? So you just saw Yin. Unfortunately, I am not on camera, but you all will see me sooner than later. Again, my name is Mari Hamilton. We do have San Diego City College faculty that will be helping to curate the curriculum. So this will actually be professors who are experts in their fields. As far as the day-to-day administrating or overseeing the activities, those are going to be current City College students. So this program, summer program, is not only going to bring children and youth from the community on the campus, but it's also going to provide employment and leadership opportunities for current San Diego City students. And then, of course, there's going to be, additional staff, City College staff that do help and provide support as well. Those who are involved with the foundation. So we have that too. So one thing to point out is that the employees at City College will actually be given priority registration. We definitely want to open this program for those employees who will be working over the summer months at City College. However, let's say there are open slots that, the employees do not fill with their children. We are willing to have community members from the surrounding neighborhoods to be able to register their children as well. But again, City College employees will get priority registration. And as far as the households who have multiple children, we are offering a multiple child discount so that, again, it's kind of an incentive to enroll into this program. Next slide, please, Ian.
So real quick, before we go to the next slide, Maury, I just want to clarify something that I believe I heard. So I'm looking at urban
Hello,
farming.
was there a question?
Yeah, yes, can you hear me, Maury?
Yes, I can.
So I'm looking at a slide that says areas of study to include. So is that to assume that there's going to be a cohort in all of these areas? Or is that, it might help us understand that piece of it?
Yes. So actually, there's been a little change as far as the curriculum. These are kind of the areas that we would like to include for sure. It's not necessarily you have to sign up for urban farming, or you have to sign up for coding, or you have to sign up for dance. It was actually discussed to make a mix of said curriculum. So let's say in the morning, the students would be at the urban farm site, and then in the afternoon, they'll do something that incorporate a dance studio. So if you look to the left of the slide, when it talks about the daily schedule, kind of like a block A and a block B type program, it would be, something classroom, educational related as far as a STEM type activity. And then in the afternoon, after lunch, and, we let them run around, they'll get even more physical activity. Another cool thing about including all of these different STEM activities is that there was talk of incorporating what they learned, let's say in the planetarium with the urban farm, or connecting something that they learn in the planetarium with like a math lesson or something along those lines, so that all of the curriculum is somehow linked to what they learned earlier in the day.
For example.
Again, it's just for example, right?
Yeah, and also we after discussion with the faculties, it was agreed upon that it would benefit the student or the campers to have once they learn about the star system, the moon, the sun, and the season, and then they can relate that to their growing seasons when they're working on the urban farm situation. So sort of cross-training or cross-learning.
Correct. Thank you, Ian.
So we've got about another minute, Maury. So if you can wrap it up, and then we can open it up to questions.
Yeah, so as you can see, I know there was some may have been wondering about money matters. So the funding did come from an IEPI grant. In the future, we definitely do want to move this model for fee for service. Again, I know there's some maybe have been wondering. Registration, I did put $250 a week. Again, that's not set in stone, but we do hope that any profits that are generated from this camp would go back to San Diego City College students. So any profits would go back to the foundation to provide support in scholarships and other student support services. And again, since we only have a minute, these last slides are essentially just kind of explaining how I came up with the math. This is for the student workers. We are trying to make sure we pay a livable wage, so they will be getting the 15 an hour. And then, of course, for each session, we do want to ensure that the students are broken up into 2 pods. How we came into the of the pods of 10 students each is actually after meeting with Jackie Robinson YMCA. They suggested breaking the students into these pods just to help with social distancing. And as well as, if someone did get sick, you would only have to contact the 9 other students in the pod and not necessarily shut down the whole entire program. That's obviously worst case scenario. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that, but I will definitely take any questions.
So I believe this is an action item. And so someone would like to make a motion for to approve the proposed college, and in this case, the foundation, which is a function of the college, separate but a function, launching a summer program. And I'll add, we've got to be one of the only colleges in the area that isn't already doing this. Certainly our sister colleges, Mesa and Miramar, are. And I'll further state what Maury already mentioned, is the goal is to actually hire our current students to keep them engaged to the campus. This becomes a retention tool to keep them employed. Would someone like to make a motion for approval of the college venturing into offering summer programs?
Ricky, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Robbie. We've got a first by Robbie. Would someone like to second the motion?
Mr. John, I'll second.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion? I'll just add that the faculty in these respective areas have been involved in the planning of this from the beginning and consulted. Certainly, we would work with them and Maury, who will be coordinating these efforts to identify the students. They go through a hiring process, background check, that sort of thing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, if you would use the reaction button and click the green for approving it, or red if you would like to vote it down, or if you would like to abstain, if you would unmute yourself and state so for the record. Looks like the motion carries. Thank you. Maury and Yin, if you will work with Janelli, and let's get together a meeting rather quickly so that we can work through some of the details that I'm seeing in the plan, please. And I apologize to those who we skipped over.
Thank you. Ricky, if you don't mind, we're gonna head off the meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care, Yin and Maury. Next on the agenda, getting back to the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Marciano Caesar. And it looks like Genevieve and Susan as well to talk about retention efforts.
Yes, so my partners in crime there are gonna chime in. What we're hoping to do today is just really share briefly some of the retention efforts that we have started to kind of talk about that are gonna really inform our retention plan that we hope to bring forward to College Council. We had Ricky tasked us with or charged us with being able to really look at our retention efforts, what we're doing, what we hope to do, what we thought we were doing, but maybe we weren't as successful at it as maybe we thought. And he gave us just a list to kind of start off from. And so I'm gonna briefly share this list. We started looking at some of the retention efforts. Some of them were kind of what we call our low-hanging fruit, things that we knew we had been doing, things that were easy to do. And then there were some things we've been talking about doing, and we started talking about, like, well, if we had time or if we had resources. And so I'm happy to share that at this point, we have 42 items that we've identified as potential retention efforts that we as a college can embark on. And we've started to talk about these in our enrollment management group. We've started to go around to some of the other committees that we are a part of and really start bringing retention to the forefront in terms of discussions that we've been having about what are folks doing, what can be done. And then our hope is to, with these, really develop our retention plan with action items that folks, as I said, for some of them, we're already doing some of these things. And we weren't even calling it retention. We were doing things, but not necessarily labeling it that way. And so I'll just give you some quick highlights of some things that we've talked about. We wanted to have we're looking at a pathway for that will allow students to complete classes at night, online, and during the weekend. And I know Ricky's been asking us since he became president to start thinking about that. And so we're finally putting some of that into action and really identifying with the help of different constituency groups what that might look like. So I know on the instructional side that they're having lots of conversations about that. We've talked about clear communication, in particular with our apprenticeship and trade programs. And so they're going to be holding some monthly info sessions, and our hope was to start them in December. And they'll be working with hopefully the associate dean and with Sasha, our job placement coordinator in the Career and Transfer Center, to be able to kind of work in that site. Caesar can talk a little bit about the website and some of the changes that we're doing there. But we're also going to start having a campaign where we're going to be doing emails and regular mail to folks, like snail mail. The college has a new text messaging app or software that we've purchased, and we'll be able to now text students. So we're really looking at what are all of our efforts that we have embarked on in hopes of really putting together a robust retention plan that we'll bring to this college council. I don't know if Genevieve or Susan or Caesar have other things that you want to add. And again, there are 40 items on here.
And maybe you can stop sharing, Marcion, just so we can more see the gallery. Everyone has a copy of the document. It was sent to the campus as well.
Yeah, some of the stuff that we're doing in communications and also working with outreach. One of the things is also working on stories and events highlighting our amazing students, right? So, students who are on the dean's list, honor students, student athletes. And so, we want to celebrate our students that are here. And, those could be inspiration for other students as well. Some other things that Marciana already mentioned, we're launching a text campaign. We're using the vendor's Signal Vine. And so we'll be able to use laser focused and strategic messaging to current and prospective students. We're also sending a large email blast to about a 50,000 list, distribution list for students who've applied but haven't registered, and also current students. And we're also creating a lot of videos. I shot a video today with our ASG president, Victoria Owusu, promoting the spring semester, and also a video on encouraging students for to do well on their finals and giving them a good job. So we'll be promoting that soon. And some other things that Marcia mentioned too. We're doing also some snail mail postcards, more videos. Thank you to the folks in Puente, Luis, Paul, and Maria Jose. We did a video highlighting the Puente program. Also working with Emoja and Hubu and creating those videos as well. But really we're trying to also just focus on one area is to really highlight those students who are currently here, who are doing well and thriving.
And go ahead, Susan.
Oh, I would just add that as we're developing these strategies, we're also thinking of ways to assess what kind of impact they're having. We do have course level retention and success data in our program review dashboards that have been distributed to all of the faculty department chairs, and will be accessible more broadly as soon as we get that part of our intranet site developed. But course success is really kind of the foundation for keeping students engaged in college, but we're also looking at more cohort tracking, or looking at a group of students that participate in one of these activities or have some foundational experience in common, and how we can track those students and not only look back at who was successful, but be aware when we've lost touch with somebody, so that we can do that more proactive outreach. So we're looking at getting some systems into place that will help with that. And Ricky let us know the last time the enrollment management group met that the district is also looking at two technology issues that we have been talking about for a long time, an early alert system and student.edu email accounts. So those would definitely be moves in the right direction to support this.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. And Janelle, I just remembered, because of Susan, the things that the other item that was supposed to be on College Council. And it was, and I'll tell you all, we'll put it on next meeting, that and it's going to be in a communication that comes out on Wednesday, and that is the state, timing, folks, sometimes is just amazing. So we were having these discussions about retention, and we received an email from the state saying that mental health is going to receive approximately $400,000. The basic needs efforts are going to receive approximately $300,000, and retention and outreach, those two dollar amounts are for the college, but we have to do some work with our colleagues over at continuing education. But the district rather is going to receive about 3.3 million for retention and outreach. So as soon as I got wind of that, I have heard you all loud and clear I've been in so many meetings with students and our wonderful colleagues at the college that say, look, why don't our students have .edu email addresses? So I am advocating, and I believe I've been successful with the district in advocating for us to take about 500,000 of that 3.3 million to ensure that our students have .edu email addresses. Now, it's not a done deal because it has to go through the district process, but I assure you, we are advocating, and my colleagues at Miramar and Mesa have joined us, and continuing education have joined us, because we know that our students are missing out on Amazon Prime. They're I mean, there's just so many things that they are missing out on in terms of discounts that they could be afforded if they had a .edu email address. And so I hope to be able to bring an update on that momentarily. But as Susan also indicated, and I'll bring this to the next meeting so that it's in writing on the agenda, we have some additional resources coming to help us with retention efforts. And here's the gist of it. We got to do a better job of celebrating the students who are here. That is the gist of it. And that'll begin with this Fall Fest A building patio rollout. And I've charged Marciano to go into the nearly $15 million worth of financial aid, student aid money that we have. That is in addition to the $15 million of HER funds that the college has, right? So students, and he's done a wonderful job. Financial aid's done a wonderful, terrific job. We partnered with a company called Equity, and we've been sending out resources to students. Our students have access to more financial resources than ever before, but there's still an opportunity to get students and reward them for their work, and create these positive behaviors, and to have things on the A building patio for the Dean's List students, and to also put additional resources into those students who may be struggling, students who have below a 2.0 or below a 2.5 or whatever the case may be. And so we know that research indicates that students who are engaged in the college are more likely to complete. And so we got to celebrate the ones. And then I also have to thank Susan Murray, and actually was during the Chancellor's Forum at the college where he said, look, we actually have more students than we ever had. And I'm working with Susan to get the data. I think the last number I saw was like 24,000 students or somewhere the whole year, right? Not term to term, but unduplicated, which is rather large. It's significantly higher than it had been, right? So Genevieve and her team and outreach team, Luke, now Clarissa have been doing a tremendous job, right? We've expanded concurrent enrollment beyond what it was prior to 2017. What we know though is that the students are taking less units. So they're not with us as long or as in many classes as they traditionally would be. And so we've got to launch retention efforts to retain those students and persist them and to complete them in their degree of study, because it's taking them longer. If you're only enrolled in 3 units, how long would it take you to complete an associate's degree or a certificate? And so that's what the brainstorming session. But here's the thing, you have ideas. Someone watching has a great idea. Someone on College Council has a great idea. And more so than ever before, we have some money to fund those ideas. So those two things make for me smiling and us smiling. Like, this should be fun for us to celebrate and honor our students. And speaking of honoring them, I work with Aaron Detty because our soccer team made the playoffs. Our cross-country team went as further into their postseason than ever before. So I'm going to invite those students to the next College Council so that we celebrate them. Now you may say, well, why are you just celebrating athletes? Well, that was just the first group that came across the wire. If you have a student or a program, and I want to thank MASA, we have the graduation for our certificate program coming up. We want to celebrate and honor the students who are doing well, who are sticking with us during this pandemic, whether they're enrolled in 3 units or whether they're enrolled as a full-time student. And one of the other things you're going to hear about on the agenda is a program or an intent to expand the Promise program. Any comments before we move on in terms of retention efforts? Hope you all would get behind these efforts and share some of the ideas that you may have. I want to send a thank you to Suna. Suna got right on this and started talking about supplemental instruction and other things that we do have the resources, folks. And John Parker is sending out another email to say, hey, we still have HER funds. Here's the application. Here's how you access them. And so we do have resources to support retention efforts if you have an idea. I want to also send a huge thank you to Aaron Charlins and DJ, Dr. Professor Rob in the math department for allowing us to use their concept around Math Jam for the Fall Fest, which I've challenged Marciano and Caesar and Tilly to make it a lot funner than it looked like it was going to be on that flyer. So I know that they're going to have some carrots for the students, and I already put it out there that a student's going to win $1,000. I know that Marciano, I spoke to him earlier, he's going to be giving out some gift certificates. And so now we're needing our wonderful faculty, classified professional supervisors to get students to this event, because we know that gifting a student $1,000 can be the difference between them paying rent and sticking with us than them saying, you know what, I just want to go work full time. And so Marciano and Caesar, and they're going to enhance the flyer to talk about what the students will win, in addition to having a resource fair. Because here's what's happening, folks. Every single day, we get an email to say, is the library open? Is tutoring open? Is financial aid open? Where can I go tutoring? Now, where can I go get tutoring? Now, the students who are on campus, they know because they're here. It's the students who are not on campus that don't know that we're open. I just got an email from a nursing student the other day. They say, nursing is one of the first programs to return. Matter of fact, they probably never left. So we still need your help in getting the information out there. And this event that we're going to talk about later is an intent to be able to do that. Thank you all. Any questions about that matter?
Just a quick comment.
Yes.
I believe we still need folks to also sign up for tabling for the Fall Fest too. So we'll send out an email later today for folks to please help volunteer and help during the Fall Fest.
And I would even say this, you know, when I first arrived, many of the programs didn't have banners. If your program does not have a banner, send an email to your respective vice president and your respective dean. We have the resources to be able to get you banners. Matter of fact, I sent an email today to John Parker asking that there be banners for the foundation. You know, we want to make sure that you have the resources necessary to support and promote your programs accordingly. Yes, please sign up to promote, because once we announce what the students are going to win from coming, the students are going to show up with your help of announcing in your classes or in your workshops as well. Thank you for that reminder, Caesar. Number 6, planning and accreditation, Dr. Murray. You're muted.
Sorry, talking to myself while I try to find my document. So just wanted to share some dates that are coming up that's not gonna work. Keep in mind, as a reminder, we have been working on the update to our strategic plan and educational master plan for a while. This started a year ago. Actually was supposed to start in the spring of 2020, but literally we had events planned the week that the immediate weeks when we all went remote. And so those were all postponed to the fall. We did have a campus forum and a community forum that generated a lot of input that was reviewed by MPROC and fed into the vision and strategic themes that were identified in fall convocation. And that's the framework that we've been working with. And we are at the point now, as we've discussed in MPROC, where we need to flesh this out into an action plan and identify specific goals and objectives within those large areas that emerged from these campus-wide conversations. And we really want to have the people who will be involved in implementing that work engaged in the discussion. That was one of the points of feedback from the last strategic plan that we developed as a college in 2017, was that the work groups that proposed some of the specific objectives and strategies weren't as directly involved in the work. And so that led to some places where it was either difficult to just get follow-up and status information on what was happening because it wasn't clear who to contact and wasn't clear who had responsibility. And in some cases, we just didn't incorporate some of the, I guess, realities. Didn't do enough of a reality check with sort of people on the ground in the situation. And so some of the things that we had planned to do weren't quite right or ended up taking a lot longer to accomplish. So we wanted to involve those folks earlier in the process. So we're identifying February 11th, which is a Friday, early in the spring semester, as a date where we will bring people together in person, but there will also be virtual options to discuss the strategic areas that have been identified and do more of the specific planning and identify the actions that we want to take. We will also want to incorporate an opportunity for people to provide some feedback on our mission statement. We have been hearing from the conversations that we have had around equity and social justice and diversity that there are some concepts there that maybe are not represented as explicitly in our mission statement as we might want. So this is a good opportunity to take a look at that. In preparation for that conversation in January, we're going to be working on updating our environmental scan data. We have access to a report that the district produced about a year ago. And so we're going to look for some assistance to just bring that up to date and make sure that it is focused in on City College where that's appropriate. And then that will take us to March, where we will be ready to circulate a final draft that will go through constituency group review before going to College Council and then on to the board. And this is going to be, these points are pretty specific to the strategic plan, but when we, the final version will incorporate the strategic plan, the facilities master plan, and the environmental scan information into an overall educational master plan document for the college. That will be an update of the one that was done in 2016, which had the environmental scan and the descriptive piece, but didn't have the action plans. So that's where that is headed. And we wanted to be sure to make people aware of those dates as we wind down the fall semester. Then for accreditation, Marco Anzuris, our faculty coordinator, and I together and separately have been reaching out to committees, constituency groups. Marco has hosted some open information sessions to share this timeline and focus on one of our key activities for this semester, which is establishing our writing teams. We will have teams for each of the 4 accreditation standards. We'll have a review team who will be focused not on writing and gathering information, but on reading the drafts and providing some feedback. We will have an action team. So if a writing team in their review of evidence and documentation uncovers something that as a college we should probably work on, that can be referred to the action team for some planning about how we want to go about addressing it, so that that responsibility isn't on the writing team and it doesn't hold up their work on the document. And then the last team that will come a little later in the process will be a group to provide input on the section of the report that's called our quality focus essay. And that identifies a longer term improvement project that we will undertake in the 2 to 3 years after we complete this self-evaluation process, in the spirit of continuous improvement with ACCJC. So we are still looking for a few more volunteers for the writing team. So if you are interested, please reach out to me or Marco Ansouris. And this is the model that we'll be following. And just as a reminder, ACCJC has made some changes that we have talked about before in how the ICER and the comprehensive review process worked, in that the actual report is submitted earlier than in past comprehensive review cycles. Our report will go in August of 2023, and our visit is not until spring of 2024. What will happen in the intervening time is that we will be assigned a peer review team. They will receive the report in the fall of 2023 and review it and send us back what they call a core inquiries report. And that core inquiries report identifies the specific areas of the standard that they're going to focus on in the site visit in spring of 2024. So the site visit will not be wide open to ask about anything that's addressed in the report or in any of the standards. We will know ahead of time which areas of inquiry they want to focus on and which standards are related to that, so that it will be a smaller team and we can use that intervening time to prepare for the visit. So that's what that timeline looks like. And we want to be sure that people have lots of advance notice that we will be looking to complete the ICER, essentially at the end of the 22-23 academic year. So we've been discussing that timeline with the constituency groups since their formal approval is required. Any questions I can answer about either planning or accreditation?
Thank you, Susan. And we hope, I'll be meeting with Susan and John to align the timelines for the educational master plan and the facilities master plan. We pivoted from the facilities master plan in order to meet the deadline for the SB 169 grant. And it is time in the spring. And so, John, you may need to work with Susan to look at dates so that the campus can in fact look at and provide some feedback on the facilities master plan. And so I don't think we need to talk about that today, but in early spring, we need to get an update and possibly have the consultants come in. If there are no further questions, or John, did you want to chime in?
I was just going to add that we have met, we received the timelines. We're just putting it in a Visio timeline format.
Perfect. Thank you, John. I'll turn it over now to Genevieve to provide an update on a first read of the expanded promise program. Sorry to keep you waiting, Genevieve.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Just here to do a quick update of what we've started to call the Path to Success Expanded Promise Program. I'm going to go ahead and share screen now. Are you all able to see the PowerPoint? Yes, perfect. Okay, so I wanted to start with, I should preface this to say that we have not yet gone to Academic Senate or Classified Senate, so we are slated to do that, and we'll be reaching out to you, Sean Ryan, for a date to come to Classified Senate, but wanted to bring it here just to kind of give you an update of where we are, and for you to be able to ask questions and provide some feedback or comments if there are any. So the concept, exploration and pilot planning, we began this semester, kind kind of kicked it off with the Cosumnes River College opt-out program presentation that was on October 13th. There was a lot of folks at City who attended, and it was a great presentation on the great work that they've been doing, and how this opt-out of a college schedule kind of program has been going with their initial promise students. And then we, from there, put out a kind of a call to the folks who were on the presentation for those who wanted to be part of kind of the little work group, concept pilot work group, to start thinking about what this might look like for us here at City. And again, building upon the work that has already been being done in our current Promise program. So the concept and pilot work group is myself, VP Tilly Chavez, Elizabeth Meehan in English, and Brenda Torres, our Promise coordinator. And we've been meeting weekly to kind of work through ideas and thoughts about what this might look like, how we could scale, and what a pilot would actually look like. So we began meeting at beginning of November and have met every week since then. We're slated to present to Academic Senate on Monday, December 6th, and then Classified Senate TBD once we are able to get a date. And then just some higher level kind of program elements. So our current Promise program has students have to, complete 12 units each semester. There's a counselor that's embedded into the program to provide some ed planning, individual appointments, and workshops. And so this expanded kind of path to success would kind of would build upon that. We would need, again, counselors to support the cohort, to do comprehensive educational plans, individual appointments, workshops. And also one of the things that I failed to put on here, and we'll get to that kind of at the third bullet, but counselors really to help kind of help us and help our instructional collaborators to put together these 12-unit class packages for students who are entering into this program. We also would incorporate our collaborative support teams, which we know has been the work that's been through Guided Pathways, but really see this program as a place for these CSTs to really be embedded. It's a counselor, a faculty, a classified professional, and a student. Currently, our Promise program has student peer mentors, which we could expand if given the resources. But again, the collaborative support teams embedded within this to provide that early alert, the kind of intrusive reaching out to students and follow up that many students need to remain on the path. And the CSTs are also written into our enrollment management and our retention plans. So really kind of bringing all those things together. And then finally, the 12-unit class schedule packages, which would be based off of students' identified major, based off of their initial admissions application, educational plans that would have been completed with the counselors. And these schedules, these packages, there would be various kind of iterations of them, so students could choose which one fits best within their schedule. So classes would be on various days, various times, to incorporate also weekend, evening courses, and then different modalities. As we know, that's, some students really like the online, some students really don't like the online, and some students like some form of hybrid of those. And so taking those into account. And then also, looking at this too as a way for, our friendly collaborators in instruction, really looking at this as like a way to help build schedules and sequences, so that, if we have this identified cohort of students, who are going through this program and participating in this program, and they, based off of ed plans and whatnot, we see that there's 35 students who need a particular class at a particular time. We could then go back to instruction and, let them know that there is this need, and then help to build class schedules from there. And then from there, students would select into a specific class schedule that would fit for them. So those are kind of like the higher level program elements that would be kind of key to this. And then a proposed phase timeline. So phase 1 beginning in spring of 2023 with the Promise Year 2 cohort, which is about 300 students. And beginning in spring 2023, because there's a lot of different elements that we have to get in place, including the counselors, the schedule build, the surveys for student needs, and in terms of class modalities, days, times, etc. So that way we're not getting ahead of ourselves and really building out something that is sustainable. And then phase 2 would begin in fall of 2023. That at that point, it would expand to the Promise Year 1 cohort. So incoming Promise students, first-time students, an athletic team. So building in, realizing that there are students on campus who are required in other areas to also be full-time students, and how do we help kind of them get through their student journey. And then a student support program, for example, Puente or Umoja, one of those, or another program who might be interested, but who have a cohort of students who have, who are part of a learning community, and kind of helping to build from there. And then phase 3, fall of 2024. And, our thought would be to then bring in EOPS. They're a larger group. And so at each stage of these, or at each phase of the pilot, scaling up more and more. So that's where we are at the moment for the Path to Success Expanded Promise program. And at this time, I guess we'll open it up to questions. If at any point you have any questions or comments, or any thoughts or additions you'd like to share about the program, you can always email me as well, and I will take that forward to the work group that is working on this. But I can open it up to questions or comments now if there are any.
Ricky, you're muted.
Thank you. Says the person who's in the same office as me, so she actually heard me speaking. Thank you, Janelle. Genevieve, can we stop sharing so we can see one another? Great job, Genevieve. Appreciate it. Super excited about this, folks. There's a lot of positive data in closing the equity gaps, particularly among some of our most disproportionately impacted students with this model in other places. Genevieve, I'm compelled to ask you to work with Robbie and a librarian. I think a librarian should be on this group. There's a lot of research on particularly first-year students taking a library course so that they know how to use the resources that are available at a college versus at a K through 12 institution. And it sounds like, although I didn't see a counselor listed, certainly I would hope that there was a counselor on the planning committee, and look forward to this coming into fruition. I could see a cohort, Darius, potentially for Black Studies or Chicano Studies, or at least those courses being embedded in this somehow. And let me also say this really is first year experience coming full circle. This college at one time or another had a first year experience program that had cohorts. Not exactly, this is another one of those ones that we say, well, what happened to it? And no one can explain what happened. That's really what this is that the only difference, in my opinion, is that the students will be manually registered into these courses versus them having to register themselves. And as somebody who has a freshman in college in my house, and I saw the discussion this weekend, he missed his appointment because he didn't know he had to register for classes. This actually places students in the classes. They're coming out of high school, folks, and nothing against my K through 12 colleagues. They're used to just getting a schedule and going to where their classes are. Now, with that said, it also leaves room, because we're going with 12 units versus 15, that a student still could enroll in another class of their choice, right? So it's kind of a hybrid model of what we see at the college that why can I not remember the name of the college now, Genevieve?
Cosumnes River College.
Cosumnes. It's also a very hard college to spell and pronounce, Cosumnes. So this is a model after Cosumnes River College. Thank you, Genevieve. Any questions for Genevieve? And you didn't list numbers, so let me ask you a question, because just for the record, when we say the Promise cohort, we're talking 3,000 or so students?
Not quite. We're hovering around 900 to 1,000.
Okay.
So typically the Promise year 2 cohort's around 300. Our current year 1 cohort is around 600. So we're hovering around 9,000 or 900 for both cohorts in any given year.
Great, great. And these are students who are more likely to enroll full-time compared to our general population as well. And super excited that you all have considered what I'll just call a second year experience, right? Because we work with these students for the first year, then we just send them out into the wilderness. That there are a lot of colleges. In fact, a lot of colleges are, during the pandemic, are starting to have orientations for second and third year students because they started their college during a pandemic. And so they're super, super interested to learn more about that. Any questions for Genevieve? Again, this will be coming or going through the college for a formal opportunity to discuss it in our constituency groups, and it'll be coming on the 14th, I believe, for a formal vote of approval. And so you're getting it twice. And Genevieve, was that PowerPoint included, or Janelle, was the PowerPoint included in the presentation?
No, but I can send it out.
Yeah, and Genevieve, you have the meeting announcement, so you should probably just be able to send it if you replied all.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, would invite you all to join us for the holiday party. I want to thank Janelle, Ira, Caesar. I'm going to miss somebody, but there's a full group of folks. Neri is always involved. Thank you, Neri. Janelle, who else is helping with the Roxanne? With the holiday party, Sean Ryan and his team. It'll be hybrid, so there'll be contests. Caesar, you want to talk about the holiday party?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me pull up the flyer. Cool. All right. So our holiday party is on Thursday, 11:30 to 1:30. There will be games, food, fun, and maybe a special guest appearance from a very jolly individual. So please come by. Thank you to, we have a couple judges that will be judging our in-person and virtual ugly sweater contest. So come with your ugliest fits for the holiday party. And we'll also have a virtual cutest pet contest. So make sure you're safely dressing your pets if you want to. Don't force it, but get your pets ready. We'll have games, prizes, food, entertainment. So please come by. Please register. Please RSVP so we know we have an accurate head count for our in-person event. And then for our virtual event, please log on and join us on that day at 11:30 to also join in the festivities.
And Caesar, we're approaching 4 o'clock. I don't want to be respectful of the time. So can you take the next 2 items too? And then Janelle, if you want to hop in on number 10. But Caesar, can you take number 10 and 11 also?
Sure. Let's see, Fall Fest, and I could share the flyer here. I'll be quick with it. So we have a Fall Fest scheduled December 8th from 12 to 4. Food will be served and music and entertainment will be happening around 12. And then the study jam will be from 2 to 4 at Sports Plaza. All the festivities will be around there. So please invite your students to eat, connect with our tutors in English and math, and prepare for finals. We'll be having prizes. So we're working with Marciano and John to get those prizes situated. We'll put that on the invite. And also, please, we need folks to help with the tabling. Send out a link to the form stack where you could help promote your program at the event. Any questions or comments on that?
And then you skip number 10.
And let's see, number 10.
The state chancellor's listening tour on December 6th. I'm gonna give it to Janelle. She's ready.
Yeah, so we are hosting the acting state chancellor here at San Diego City College on next Monday, December 6th. I have sent out a meeting announcement to you all to invite you all to welcome the state chancellor on the A building patio from 10 to 11. There's going to be refreshments, and after that, the state chancellor is going to be given a tour of some of the amazing programs we have here at San Diego City, and then she will be a part of a lunch with students so that she can receive feedback and just hear about all the amazing stories and students we have here at San Diego City. If you guys have any questions or comments about this event, please feel free to contact me and I will be more than willing to give you information about this event.
Thank you, Janelle. And I'll just add a couple of things. One, Victoria, with the student government, certainly work with Don Sanchez. We have been and want to just formally extend an invitation to student government to join us for that event and for the lunch. The same with Genevieve and our student ambassadors. We'll be meeting with our acting state chancellor. And so thank you, Janelle, and everyone involved with putting that together. I believe Ira hopped in and helped a number of folks, Genevieve, Clarissa. And so we are happy that our state chancellor has reached out to City College to come learn about the programs and services here at the college. And with that said, folks, the next City College Council meeting is on the 14th. I hope you will join us. We'll have a number of action items with the Student Services Reorg, with the Extended Promise Program, and we will have some students who have accomplished both academic and athletic things that we should honor. With that said, appreciate everything you all do with our college. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everyone.